The Vietnam War, a defining struggle of the 20th century. The Vietnam War remains one of the most controversial and tragic chapters in modern history. Fought between 1955 and 1975, it was not just a conflict between North and South Vietnam, but also a battle of ideologies, global powers, and generations. For the United States, it became a painful reminder of the limits of military might, while for Vietnam, it was a fight for survival, unity, and independence. Origins of the war. The roots of the Vietnam War can be traced back to the aftermath of World War II. Vietnam, then a French colony, was striving for independence. Ho Chi Minh, a communist revolutionary, declared Vietnam's independence in 1945. However, the French attempted to reassert control, sparking the First Indochina War. With the French defeat at Dien Bien Phu in 1954, Vietnam was temporarily divided into North Vietnam, led by Ho Chi Minh, and South Vietnam, backed by the United States and anti-communist allies. The U.S. saw Vietnam through the lens of the Cold War. The spread of communism in Asia, after the fall of China and the Korean War, fueled fears of the domino theory, that if one nation fell to communism, others would follow. Determined to stop this, America began supporting South Vietnam with military advisors, money, and weapons. Escalation of the conflict. By the early 1960s, tensions had grown into a full-scale war. In 1964, the Gulf of Tonkin incident gave U.S. President Lyndon B. Johnson the justification to escalate American involvement. Soon, hundreds of thousands of U.S. troops were deployed to Southeast Asia. American soldiers found themselves in a war unlike any they had faced before. Dense jungles, guerrilla tactics by the Viet Cong, and a determined North Vietnamese army made traditional warfare nearly impossible. The Viet Cong blended with civilians, using ambushes, traps, and underground tunnels to wear down U.S. forces. Despite America's advanced technology, airstrikes, and chemical weapons like Agent Orange, victory remained elusive. The war at home. While the battle raged abroad, another war was unfolding at home in the United States. Television brought graphic images of combat and civilian suffering into American living rooms. The brutality of events like the My Lai massacre and the bombing campaigns shocked the world. Protests against the war erupted across the nation, led by students, activists, and civil rights leaders. The anti-war movement grew stronger, questioning the morality of U.S. involvement and demanding withdrawal. The war also divided American society, pitting supporters of the government's policy against those who wanted peace. Turning point and withdrawal. The 1968 Tet Offensive became a turning point. Although militarily costly for North Vietnam, it shattered the illusion that the U.S. was winning. Public opinion shifted dramatically, and confidence in the government declined. Over time, U.S. leaders realized that victory was unattainable. President Richard Nixon introduced Vietnamization, a strategy to train and equip South Vietnamese forces while gradually withdrawing American troops. In 1973, the Paris Peace Accords were signed, and U.S. forces officially left Vietnam. 2 years later, in 1975, North Vietnamese forces captured Saigon, marking the end of the war. Vietnam was reunified under communist rule, and America faced one of the greatest defeats in its history. Legacy of the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War left deep scars on both nations. Vietnam suffered immense destruction, with millions of soldiers and civilians killed. The land was devastated by bombings and chemicals, leaving long-lasting effects on the environment and public health. For the United States, over 58,000 soldiers lost their lives, and countless veterans returned with physical injuries and psychological trauma. The war also led to widespread distrust in government, reshaping American politics and foreign policy for decades. Conclusion. The Vietnam War was more than a military conflict. It was a clash of ideologies, a test of endurance, and a lesson in the limits of power. It taught the world that technology and might cannot easily overcome determination and national spirit. To this day, the war stands as a reminder of the human cost of conflict and the importance of seeking peace over prolonged violence. Like, comments, and subscribe.